Hello there! Welcome to episode 25 of the WaveBack Music Podcast. Today's episode is SimCity for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Enjoy! Hello again, this is the WaveBack Music Podcast. My name is Kris.
And I'm Vicky.
And we're here to talk to you about some of the most interesting video game music there is. If you listened to the last episode, this might not be the game you were expecting. We had originally planned to do Risk of Rain this week, but we had to delay the episode because the game's composer actually agreed to do an interview with Vicky to pair with the episode. So while we get all those ducks in a row, we decided to fill this week's slot with one of my old favorites. It's not a soundtrack that's going to make you get up and dance, but it's some of the most calming and beautiful music to ever grace the Super NES. This week, we're listening to the music of SimCity for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Vicky, hit us with some history.
SimCity was originally released on the PC in 1989. That was a very long time ago. It was a massive success, so naturally, Nintendo wanted to get the game on their upcoming Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Their port wasn't just the PC version on a console, though. Nintendo took the time to make sure their version of SimCity was uniquely theirs. There are Mario statues, Bowser attacks, and a lovable character named Dr. Wright, based on Will Wright, the game's creator, who eventually made appearances in games like Super Smash Bros. And The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening.
So if you've played Smash Brothers and you get the assist trophy of Dr. Wright,
Yeah.
the little dude with green hair, and he points a little magic wand, a bunch of buildings stick out of the ground. It's because he's from SimCity. Get it? City, buildings.
I see.
And he showed up in Link's Awakening. He was in a cabin writing a love letter to somebody who looked exactly like Princess Peach. And his song from this game actually plays when you go into his cabin. It's really bizarre. One of the many awesome, amazing, bizarre things in Link's Awakening. It's a great game. Anyway, this game's music was composed by Soyo Oka, aka DJ Alice. She's done some killer work with Nintendo, including Ice Hockey for the NES, Pilot Wings, the original, and the original Super Mario Kart and Super Mario All-Stars. More recently, she's been working as a freelance artist, mainly composing music for commercials. I love this woman's style, and this and Pilot Wings have some of my favorite chill music on the platform. If you've never played SimCity for Super NES, I believe tonight you're in for a treat, as long as you're not expecting to get up and dance too much. So let's get started. Vicky, do you have any thoughts before we jump into our first track?
I did not even know this game existed, so I listened to it a bit at work, so I know what's coming, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too. I got this game around, pretty much right when it came out, around the Super Nintendo's launch, and I had never heard of it before, and I had never played anything like it. I'd never really heard of the PC version of this until after this game was a game that I played regularly, and there wasn't really much like this on the NES. So a city building and management game was a totally unique experience for me, and it had a certain charm. It had a certain made me smile. And the first thing that made me smile was this title screen music, which is going to be our track one for the evening. It's pretty simply called Title. And what you should know about this music before we listen to it is that it plays over a nighttime skyline. It's like a side-scrolling look at a nighttime skyline, and the word SimCity shows up, and then it just kind of scrolls for a while and plays this gorgeous, gorgeous music. So here is track number one, Title. Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was such like a sweet, precious, mystical song.
Yeah. What's really fun about this game's soundtrack, and one of the reasons that it sticks out so much in my memory is, like I said, I'd never played anything quite like this before. So the music isn't really designed to evoke any sort of action, you know?
Hmm.
It's just kind of designed to be background music for a game that requires patience. You know, you sit there and you plan. It's just a game about planning. And just the way that this sweet song plays over that cityscape is, I used to just turn on the game and listen to it for a while. I used to restart it a lot too, because I liked, obviously it keeps looping the way that it is. It loops for a good long while, but the very beginning of it, where it kind of, the music fades in, it's just it's so cool, and it sets such a calming mood for a game like this. I think it's great.
Hmm.
Fair warning, I know this music is very sleepy, but I am also extraordinarily sleepy, so I can feel myself tripping over some of my words. So fair warning, I'm a little loopy and tired tonight. Gonna be a fun
Yay!
podcast. So track number 2 is Menu, and you actually spend a lot more time on this music than one would expect. Yeah, you press start on this game, and it just kind of goes to this a file select kind of thing, and then when you're creating a new game, you have to load up which overworld map you're gonna make your city, town, whatever you want to call it, based on, and you kind of like load up this old style looking computer type interface, and every time one of these maps, there's like dozens and dozens of these maps to choose from, but they actually take a decent amount of time to load, which always struck me as so odd, because this is an early Super Nintendo game, and loading time wasn't really something I was all that familiar with. But watching these maps load is I don't know, it's kind of a taxing experience, but fortunately, this music is it's really good menu music. It's really good at kind of setting the tone for what you're doing and keeping you engaged and not necessarily bored. But it's also not super hyper energetic or anything to be a complete mismatch to what's going on on the screen. It's really quite clever, as I feel most of this soundtrack is incredibly clever. So. Without further ado, let's listen to track number 2, Menu.
That was nice. I like the little horns and
Yeah, I
I
love
guess
her
the
instrumentation. Her instrument
tuba.
choices are so cool.
Hmm.
And it's a very similar instrument set between this and Pilot Wings, considering they both came out real close to one another. But
Hmm.
one of the things I really like about this track is the drum beat. Like it's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward, but then there's like one snare drum hit that's really in an odd place to just kind of give it that extra little tiny bit of funky, like, and I say funky in the most elevator music type way imaginable, because this is just bordering on elevator music, but it's just a cute little catchy tune. I don't know.
It's better than elevator music. Don't say that.
It is. It's like elevator music if it was really good. You know what I mean? I seriously mean it as high praise, because I mean, like I said, I adore this soundtrack. So,
Hmm.
all right. So yeah, I guess there's not a ton to talk about besides the instrumentation there, and that really cool little I don't know, just good song, and it invokes such memories with me. I played the hell out of this game. I loved playing this game so much. All right, so next track is now are the tracks that are the next handful of tracks, the ones that are what happens while you're playing the game. So the point of the game is to build yourself as big a city as possible, and you start, at the bottom of the bottom of the barrel. You have a village, and then you progress to town, city, capital, metropolis, and finally megalopolis, which is a term I had never heard of before playing this game. I still don't even think megalopolis is a real word, but whatever.
I thought it was a made up word. I think I've seen it before,
Huh.
but
Well,
you
it's
know,
it's
Google
all
can
based on
answer.
your city's population.
Huh?
So to start with, there's absolutely no zoning, no nothing. You just have like a bunch of flat land with some trees and stuff like that, and that is the music that's you're going to be listening to now, which is Village. So let's jump right in. So you were just listening to Village from SimCity for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Vicky, how does that one make you feel?
I like the little piano in the back. It makes you think of like little town. You're just starting out, setting you up for the big leagues.
Yeah, it's very. All right, so this track is kind of important for a couple of reasons. This
Mhm.
one, that a lot of the pieces of this song are going to be reprised, and kind of sort of remixed for the rest of the remainder of the main background music in the game.
Mhm.
So that kind of main melody you're going to hear pop up a couple of more times, and even some of the pieces of the background sounds and whatnot. But just the that is such a calming piece of music. Like it's on my fall asleep at night playlist, and it always makes me smile just a little bit whenever I hear it, because it's such a nice calm tune, and again, it just invokes very specific memories of me, starting a map and seeing the animation of the water, and
They had water animation back then?
they sure
Oh
did.
my god. Watch out, 1989.
Hey, this is well, the 1989 was the PC version.
Oh,
I don't know if the PC version. I think the PC version still had some water animation, but the Super Nintendo one. I'm talking rudimentary water animation,
I
like maybe
know.
3 or 4 frames.
Just kidding. I mean, it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, it's what, there's something about this game's graphics that are, yeah, there's looking at the original PC version and then comparing it to the Super Nintendo one. It's like it's hard to say that the graphics are either particularly good or bad. It has a very, it's clearly modeled off of that PC game, but it's also just got that Nintendo flavor to it. This is such a unique property. It was released on the Wii Virtual Console, but then eventually pulled,
What?
and never released on the Wii U Virtual Console. I'm sure there's all kinds of rights issues involved, but so let's move on to track number 4, which is Town. After you graduate from Village, you move on to Town, and it starts to pick up a little bit. It's clearly the same, very light, relaxing kind of music, but it's just a little bit more intense now. So enjoy track number 4, Town. was town music from SimCity. I really like the composition of this one. It's got a very classical composition feel to it, more so than a lot of the other ones. There's certain ways the melodies interact with one another that makes me think more of classical music than traditional video game music. I don't know. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I thought it sounded very like regal, like
That's
it
a
could have been a
good word
harpsichord
for it.
regal.
Yeah, harpsichord. Good call. Yeah, it really sounds like it could have been translated to a more harpsichord type sound. But I guess it's sort of what is it, like a string sound they seem to be going for here?
Yeah, I think
Either
so.
way, it's very very good, and you can hear hints of that kind of main
Yeah, the
uh,
original
theme
song.
from Village. Yeah, you can hear hints of it. It's really interesting. I never really even pieced together that all the songs play off of that Village theme until I don't know, maybe like 2 years ago when I finally downloaded the soundtrack. Because the thing is that they're reimagined so differently from one another. It's really subtly reused, or at least that's how it ever always struck me. But yeah, I like this tune quite a bit. This is still calming and relaxing enough for me to have on my sleepy time playlist. Not quite as calming and relaxing as Village, but it's I love the way this soundtrack builds, and you're gonna keep hearing it all the way up through track 8, and before we move on to some of the other little bonusy type tracks. But yeah, it's just a very natural build from one song to the next.
I like how they just sped it up like ever so slightly and added just like another layer on top of it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, the way it built the intensity
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily by. Yeah, it built the intensity by adding more layers,
Hmm.
and it wasn't even. It's not even like it's that much faster of a song.
Hmm.
It's just that much more lively of a song.
Yes.
So track number 5 is City, where we finally get to the game's namesake, City, and I like this song quite a bit. This might actually be my favorite song of the night. It's how do I put this? It definitely it again it increases the energy level again by kind of playing off the intensity of the song. It is still extraordinarily pleasant music. Like it's not getting to the point where it's stressful per se, but it does feel. I love that you use that word regal, because this does. Each track seems to add just that little tiny more touch of regal to it. Like it's a very city hall kind of environment. And,
Ooh.
your city's getting bigger. There's people in it. There's cars moving around. There's traffic. There's taxes to pay attention to.
There's
So
spaceships. Watch out. Just kidding. There's no spaceships.
no spaceships, not in this one. I think they were in SimCity 2000 was the first time we saw
Oh
spaceships.
God.
Anyway, here is track number 5, City. So there's City from SimCity for Super Nintendo. I was wrong. That wasn't the track that I thought it was. I was thinking of Capital, which is actually my favorite track in the game. But this one's got a lot of really good. I really like the kind of scales they have going on towards that right before the loop, where it starts going on those downward scales with that xylophone type sound. And the way that it loops, like the way that it picks up that extra like do 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 do, that way it picks that up
Hmm.
is really quite nice. It's rather lovely. What are your thoughts on this one?
I like how they still have the flute in there. It's
Uh huh.
a
Yeah.
very sweet sound. And the lower end of the piano is like, it makes it such a good. It's still a relaxing song.
Yeah,
It's only.
it's still definitely relaxing. Yeah, that very low end piano
Mhm.
they've got that's kind of covering the bass line of the song is
Yep.
it's really nice. It's quite nice.
This sounds like a jazz show. Like we're talking about jazz music on a radio station.
That's here listening to NPR. I'm
Yes.
going to speak as calmly and as boringly as possible for the remainder of the show. All right, let's move on to Capital.
Mhm.
Capital is my favorite song of the night. The one I thought this last one was. I like this one a lot because it's got a really cool build to it. Like a lot of these songs are kind of like remain at kind of a stagnant level of intensity of as far as like the amount of things that are going on. This one really has a cool build, and I really dig it. So here we go. Track number 6, Capital. There we are. Track number 6, Capital.
That was a really cool song.
Yeah, I love the way that whole thing comes together. You've got that very very kind of staccato beginning, and then it just kind of turns into a slightly faster version of really just the village theme.
Hmm.
When it kind of pulls itself back a bit, and all this like piano scales and whatnot going on there. But it's such a gorgeous piece of music. It's so pretty. I love it.
I love how all of these songs just build on top of each other, like on top of each different like beat and everything.
Yeah, this is it's just I love the common threads that they have going on throughout the course of the soundtrack. It's I have just such a tremendous amount of respect for this because like I said, I had never really heard a soundtrack like this game before. The exception of maybe like the Incredible Machine, which was a PC game that I was playing around the time when I was playing SimCity. I guess it must have been sometime around that time. But even then, the Incredible Machine was had a bit more some rather intense tracks, and this game's soundtrack was it just stuck with me. And between this and Pilot Wings, and obviously I didn't know until years and years and years later that this and Pilot Wings were written by the same person. But I have always been enthralled with this game's music. Just love it to death. You got any more feelings on this one?
Um, it had a very fantasy feel to it to me. That's
Yeah,
it.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
I haven't played these games, so I don't like know the context of them. I'm just going based on what I hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's really. Have you ever played any SimCities before?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
I don't pay
Yeah,
attention to the music really.
I feel like of all the versions of SimCity I've ever played, I haven't played any of the super modern ones. I
Hmm.
played this. I eventually went back and played the PC one, which was mostly silent, I think. And then I played SimCity 2000 a decent amount, and I messed around with SimCity 3000 for a little bit. But I feel like none of those games really had great music. I feel like this is the only version that had that. And I guess just because it was a console version, and they were Nintendo really went a long way of making this feel like a console game and not just a port of a PC game. And I'm guessing the music was a big part of that. Anyway, let's move on to track number 7, which is Metropolis. This is a song that I've probably heard the most because I spent the most time on Metropolis trying to get to Megalopolis. I always kind of hit a wall around Metropolis, and very rarely did I ever get a place past this. So this particular song I had stuck in my head for a very, very long time. I don't love it, but it is very, very fitting for once you get to Metropolis status because it is very industrial sounding. This is a considerably more industrial and more energetic song than anything else that's been on the soundtrack. You'll notice the instrumentation is remarkably different, and yet if you pay attention, the main melody is remarkably similar, again, harkening back to track number 3, Village. So here is track number 7, Metropolis. There's a lot of minor notes in that one, whereas every track leading up to this was very major. This just kind of takes it into a very, very industrial sounding song.
It sounded
What do you
more
think?
modern for its time, I guess. Like,
Yeah, it definitely. You know what? That's a really good point. That village, town, city, and capital all really kind of fit together. And then once you get to Metropolis, it is starting to get more modern. And you'll notice with Megalopolis, I feel like the next track, track number 8, Megalopolis, is a much more science fiction-y almost sounding. Like it reminds me of this, like those City of Tomorrow type videos that from
ooh.
way back in the old World's Fairs and whatnot. It's got that kind of a vibe to it. So, Vicky, you were kind enough to look up Megalopolis while we were listening to these tracks. So why don't you share with us your findings on the word Megalopolis?
Megalopolis is typically defined as a chain of roughly adjacent metropolitan areas. The term was used by Patrick Geddes in his 1915 book Cities in Evolution by Oswald Bellinger. Was it?
Sure, go
Yeah,
with it.
Ben Spangler. It was Spangler by Oswald Spangler
Samsonite. I was way off.
in his 1918 book The Decline of the West, and Lewis Mumford in his 1938 book The Culture of Cities, which described it as the first stage of urban development and social decline. So it pretty much started in the early 1900s, this word. Which,
Wow.
what kind of cities did they have that were really close together? Not to be like rude, but seriously.
Not to be rude to that time period. I think it actually is very science fiction-y. I think they were thinking about the future when they were coming up with that word. And you'll
Probably.
notice in our next track that it is very much the case. This sounds very future-y. Let's work together to build a better future kind of music. So let's dive right in, huh? Here's track number 8, Megalopolis. it is, Megalopolis. This
Very
is where you
exciting.
get your Mario statue in the game. When you
What?
achieve this status, you get to place a Mario statue, and it's totally awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah, what do you think of this one?
It was very quick. It was very quick. I liked that drop off where it just quiets down near the end and it picks right back up. It
Yeah,
was like a lot of fun.
it is. It is a lot of fun. It's very bouncy. I mean,
Hmm.
you're pretty damn proud of yourself when you finally reach Megalopolis status. But you see what I mean? It's got that very like everybody should stand up and get their clothes on and pack their briefcases and get in their cars and go to work. Like I could
Welcome to the world of tomorrow.
exactly.
Like that.
I could so picture this being the soundtrack to an old like propaganda video or something. It is hysterical to me. It's such an interesting and coming off of the sounds that the songs that came before it, because you had all those ones together that were kind of a natural evolution, and then you finally capped it off with Metropolis and this very industrial sounding, and then all of a sudden you're in the future, and it's like it's really neat. It's not like the game gets more futuristic or anything. It's just the music, and it's darn cool. It's darn cool. All right, speaking of darn cool, track number 9 is called Problem. And one of the fun things about old SimCity games is that you could have these different natural disasters and whatnot that happened. And I picked this track very specifically out of all the. It's a short track. All these sort of supplemental tracks are, but this one in particular I picked because this is the one that came up whenever there was some sort of natural disaster or major problem happening to your town. And the one that always stuck out in my mind was the Bowser attack. You could, because this was a Nintendo game, one of the natural disasters would be a giant Bowser would attack your town, like
Oh,
Bowser from Super Mario Brothers.
that's cute.
And this music in particular is stylistically so similar to Soyo Oka's music that she did in Super Mario All-Stars. Particularly for when you think of the 16-bit remaster of Super Mario Brothers in Super Mario All-Stars, the music that she created to play whenever you got to a Bowser stage is very thematically similar to this track Problem, from the instrumentation and pretty much everything. It's such a cool parallel, and this is a really neat song, and it's clearly one of the more exuberant songs that we have on the soundtrack tonight. So let's go ahead and give it a listen. Track number 9, Problem.
I immediately thought Zelda, like the game over music, when I heard that.
You see, you said Zelda, and I thought to myself, "Wow, that sounds an awful lot like the Ganon fighting music from A Link to the Past." But
Ba-na-na-na, bum, bum, ba, like that.
okay, yeah, all right, I see what you're talking about. Oh wow, I never really pieced that together. Yeah,
What?
that's cool.
Yes.
This I love it because you're just doing what you're doing in your city, and then all of a sudden this screen opens up, and Dr. Wright's standing there like pulling his hair out, and going like, "Oh no!" And there's like these Bowser monsters running around in the background. It's so great.
There's a lot of them.
You know what? No, it's just the one.
Oh, okay.
But it keeps looping past like Flintstone style.
Oh.
Like it always goes from left to right. I could never tell if it was supposed to be its legs spinning around real fast or if it was some sort of thing that had wheels. I don't know. It was really strange looking, but it was always super cool. Man, I would love to have a like modern SimCity remake with a Bowser attacks in it. That would be so awesome. But speaking of Dr. Wright, our track number 10 for the evening is one of the most pleasant songs on the face of the planet. One of those songs that if you've spent a lot of time in this game always makes you happy to see, because once this song plays, you're talking to your good buddy Dr. Wright with his green hair and his silly hairstyle and his thick glasses, and he's always giving you good advice and cheering you along. And this is the music that always plays during these situations, and it's just feel good music. So here's track number 10, Dr. Wright.
sounds like a very good friend.
He's a very good friend.
This sounds
It's
like
very
very...
scholarly music, you know? It just feels like this man has an education and he's going to teach me how to do things.
Yeah.
What a pleasant little jingle. Yeah. Again,
That's
it's really
very
short.
cute.
But yeah, very cute. All right. Speaking of which, we're going to move on to our last track of the night. I know this is kind of a short episode, but considering how tired I am, I think it's a good thing. This last track I chose just because, well, it's... All right. This track is called Good Job. And when choosing the last track of the night, I was thinking, well, I'm not going to go with You're Fired because that's just a really slow, sad song, and it's only about 10 minutes long. So,
Oh, damn.
Sorry, not 10 minutes, 10 seconds long. So, yeah, we're not gonna do that. Then there's Good Night. Every time you end your game, like you can pause it, stop, tell it I'm going to bed now. I'm not going to play this anymore. It switches over to this Good Night theme, and it is extremely slow and sleepy. And I don't know, of all the slow, sleepy music that this game has, it's probably my least favorite. So I decided to go out on a high note, which is the Good Job music. This is another relatively short track, but whenever you've accomplished some sort of awesome task in this game, the window will open up and Dr. Wright will pop in there and say, hey, good job, you did something awesome. Like, your town gave you like 100% approval rating, or I don't know, you've just leveled up to the next type. You've gone from town to city or city to capital or something like that. This is feel good music if there ever was some. So here's our last track of the night, track number 11, Good Job.
Every time I do something good now. That felt nice.
It sounds like a graduation ceremony.
Yeah.
Actually, what it sounds kind of like the music at the end of the original Star Wars, like when they're all giving them the medals and stuff. It almost sounds like an odd remix of that music.
It could be.
It
Just
could
kidding. Be. I mean, yeah, it could be.
Who knows? Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
It made me think of there was this old movie called Little Nemo in Slumberland, and there was like a tune in there that sounded like this, where Little Nemo like meets the king and he saves Slumberland and the entire kingdom, and it was just very triumphant.
Yeah, triumphant's a good word for it. So yeah, that's our track list. I know this is a short and sweet episode. We don't have a ton to say about these songs. I just really wanted to share them. One of my favorite things about doing this podcast is getting some of my favorite video game music into the ears of people that may have never heard it before. And this is one of those soundtracks that I'm overly fond of, and I don't feel like it gets the recognition it necessarily deserves. Because I mean, it's the Super Nintendo version of SimCity. If people think SimCity, they think PC. Mm-hmm. But there was a damn good console version of SimCity out there that was very Nintendo flavored and had a fantastic soundtrack by a fantastic woman. So that's all I have to say about it. Vicky, you got any final thoughts?
Stop giving me games to play. I am bogged down. I'm still playing Risk of Rain, so I'm going to try and get to... I wanted to play that Pipe Dream game again. Gonna look for that. Probably Sonic Pinball after that. I'll get to this eventually. But I'm very excited to have a whole list of games I get to play.
Well, you're welcome. Happy to be of service. All right, everybody, that's our show. Tune in next time as we finally make our way to Risk of Rain, complete with an interview with the game's composer himself, all the way from Athens, Greece. As always, we would love to hear everyone's thoughts and memories on these games, so if you have any that you would like to share with us, send them to mail@geekade.com. And while you're at it, check out all our social media channels, which you should totally follow, like, and or subscribe to if you haven't already. And be sure to check out all the other great content we have on our site at geekade.com. Thanks again for listening, and good night.
Good night.